All right, for more, let's bring in former CIA agent Eric Cole. Eric, good to have you here on the show this morning. You know, that Putin meeting with Steve Witkoff yesterday, who, of course, is the U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, must have done something to move this forward. You wonder what Putin's plan is going to be here. I mean, he clearly wants face-to-face time with President Trump to make his case. What do you think is going to happen here? Good morning.
Good morning. I think what's happening here is there's really a bigger agenda of there is an ongoing conflict between the United States and Russia on cyberspace, and they're trying to go in and be able to figure out how do we go and come up with a peace treaty with a war that nobody knows is happening. So we're talking about physical wars, we're talking about all these economies, but the reality is it's the cyber war that's really impacting both Russia and the United States.
I was talking this morning with a friend before the show, and he was saying, you know, I think President Trump is really, really frustrated that he wasn't able to end all of these conflicts early on. And I think maybe it's causing him to act in some ways that maybe he wouldn't otherwise. President Trump says it's all up to Israel if they want to occupy Gaza. He said he's going to focus on getting people fed there, but the rest of it would be up to Israel. Now, Israeli prime minister is reportedly working on a plan to occupy all of Gaza. This can continue to get very complicated. MAGA's confused. Loyalties seem to be shifting with some of these reports. Some of us are just quietly watching to see where all of this ends. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is all this has to wrap together. You have the war, you have the tariffs, you have the cyber attacks that are occurring all the time. What has to happen is we're doing these individual pieces. We're looking at individual conflicts with Israel, individual conflicts with Russia. But the reality is what has to happen is we have to zoom out and look at the big picture. We are in conflict in many different areas, and we just have not communicated between the different countries. So I think communication is key for them to start talking and getting on the same page.
Wait, so let me go back. So let me try to kind of square this up or square the circle, if you will, if that's the term. Anyhow, you had mentioned Putin and Trump, or we had mentioned Putin and Trump in their meeting. How does cybersecurity play into what they're going to discuss? Or do you, I mean, you say that's part of what's going on here, but explain that in terms of the ask by Russia or the ask by the United States. I'm a little confused as to what that means.
Yeah, so first we have to recognize is we are always physical phones, like having conversations. But what is the reality of Trump and Putin texting each other? What if they're sending messages? What if they're sending emails, right? There's a lot of other communication going on underneath on a cyber sense that we don't know about and are not being covered because it's not a traditional means of communication. And when we talk about the cyber conflict, a big area for Putin was during the war with Ukraine. One of the big issues they had is the Ukrainians actually took over their drones and used them against Russia. So cyber attacks was a big part of Ukraine that was starting to hurt them in the war. So Putin realizes he has to better have allies in cybersecurity and in the United States, because otherwise physical war is not going to be won. It's all in the cyberspace.
Do you think President Trump just didn't realize how deep the deep state is into the military-industrial complex, and that, you look at, for example, Putin, who was having a lot of struggles maintaining power in Russia, but oh my goodness, you start a war and all of a sudden you're Mr. Popularity again. Same exact thing, we saw the same thing happen in Ukraine. We saw the same thing happen with Netanyahu. I mean, Netanyahu was on his last legs politically, and now, you go to war and all of a sudden you have something about, and then that's when you don't even consider. So there's the power, but there's the money, the big, big, big money. Everyone profits off of a war who's into that. It would be hard for me to sleep at night knowing there were dead young men and women because of my profits, but apparently some people can sleep just fine knowing that and continue with the efforts to keep war going. Do you think President Trump just didn't realize that? Is that what's happening here, and why this just can't be solved with his normal diplomacy? Because he's good at diplomacy.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. Is unfortunately war is big business. War is funding economies. It wakes up a lot of different industries on there. However, what I like what Trump is doing is he's going in and trying to be a peacetime president. So yes, wars get attention. You're right. Nobody knew what was going on with Putin. He starts a war, all of a sudden the most popular person in the world. But when you go in and you want to be the peacetime president, where you create peace, that can also drive revenue and drive economies.
From the people. It drives revenue from the people and drives popularity from the people. But the deep state is deep, and the military-industrial complex is so bipartisan. It's just scary as we look down the road to the midterms, because peace doesn't work for them. It's not profitable. I don't know. The whole thing in my mind is just it's a little bit of a catch-22 for President Trump. It'll be interesting to see how he navigates. But if anybody can do it, it would be him. Eric Cole, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
All right, coming up, despite the controversy around it, American Eagle stock has soared since the Sydney Sweeney campaign. How much has it gone up? We're going to tell you all about it when we come up next here on American Sunrise.
Poverty is unimaginable